It's a win that has been 16 Grand Tours in the making. Carlos Verona, a rider who is so often in service of others, takes just his second professional win at the age of 32, and what a rapid win that was as well. Here then is confirmation of your top 10 on stage 15. The top 10 finish for Max Poole, and look who is joining us in the studio, fresh off his flight from the United States. We have Jonathan Waters. Jonathan, what a win that was for Carlos Verona.
Well, what a stage overall. I mean, just such incredibly aggressive racing from the start. For a 220-kilometer stage, they finished in 5 hours and 15 minutes. Yeah. Obviously, an incredible effort by this man. But to me, I'm just impressed by the speed and the aggression, and that I mean, there was only sort of like one timeout, we'll call it, that only lasted, what, 5-6K in the entire race. It
was like a ding-dong of a boxing match, really, wasn't it? It was a stage for the pure cycling fans.
Yeah, no, I mean, we witnessed really, really great racing today, and some interesting cracks in the overall race, right? Obviously, Roglic cracked, but what was more interesting to me is when those attacks were really going on the climbs is you could see who it took a little bit longer to come back to the front and who was able to respond immediately.
And by that you mean Juan Ayuso, essentially, for who was taking a little bit longer to respond, and Isaac Del Toro, fresh as a daisy it looked like at the end of all of that. We will get to all of the GC battle, but I think this man deserves a little bit more of our attention, doesn't he, Robbie?
Oh, he certainly does. You know, a guy who has contributed to so many victories of others, and he's been on the World Tour for 14 years, been a pro for 16, as you said, 16 Grand Tours that he's ridden, and he finally gets one of his own. He's one of the good guys, and there'll be, I don't know how many guys in the peloton, and even guys who have already retired, who'll be so happy for Carlos Verona getting a victory. It is just so deserved. He's one of the really good guys who works so hard, rarely for himself. And he's got one, he's jagged it.
And he gets the fastest, was it the fastest stage of the Giro ever over 150K?
Yeah, crazy.
Which is, by the way, a mountain stage.
Yeah, 219K, 3,800 metres elevation. They've averaged nearly 42K an hour.
I think you're going to have to revise your opinion of yourself there, Carlos Verona. I'm not usually fast. You've just won the fastest ever stage of the Giro D'Italia, over 150 kilometres. What I love about that interview, Adam, was so much, actually. I find myself quite emotional watching that. But the fact that he said his only other victory in his career was at the Criterium de Dauphiné in 2022, and he said he only went for that because they lost their team leader there. And again, he's doing it for the team. It just sums this man up, doesn't it?
Yeah, that he goes well when he doesn't have his team leader there. Give him his own chances. No, it does really, and I think he's a man that wears his heart on his sleeve. He's always given throughout his whole career everything that he's got to his teammates, and to be able to do that on a day like today with his family there as well, which is a joy for him. It just sums him up completely. You know, he's the man when you're going into battle, you're going into corners, you're going into climbs, you want him next to you. He's reliable, and he's just a complete gent. Even from that interview, you can tell he's just so humble with the person he is and the rider that he is that, yeah, I'm super happy for him, just because of everything that he's done for the sport and for the team, not necessarily for the sport, but for his team and his teammates. It's just brilliant to see one of the good guys getting their hands in the air more than anything.
You say such a gentleman too. I'm sure you're really pleased to not have to apologise for a contribution to the swear jar after an interview, which is refreshing.
It's refreshing. I always understand the colourful language, but, you know, that was actually refreshing. Very wholesome as a win, I feel like. And, Robbie, you were saying as we were watching that interview, Lidl Trek have now won over a third of the stages of this race, and you said you would have thought yourself indifferent to another Lidl Trek win. That's the 6th. However, this is a little bit different, isn't it?
The winner himself, and there's nothing against any of the other guys in the team. They've been absolutely brilliant. But to a team who's dominated, got so many stage wins, you go, man, another one. But Carlos Verona, the story behind it, just makes it.
I don't think Derek G's going to have any more bad luck, because I think we have located the source of his good luck today, didn't we? It was that lucky fox. Did you spot that during the stage today? They stuffed a fox on a plinth, and Derek G was the only one, there we go, to reach out and touch the fox's head. I think this is a new marginal gain, Jonathan. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, now on the climb with 16 foxes per kilometre.
I mean, I definitely prefer this over the Borat suits.
Yeah, absolutely. absolutely. I mean, Derek G is such a lovable rider anyway, and he clearly had his legs today. He was not only following every single attack, but he was making a few of his own.
Yeah, he was trying to make the race for himself, and I think there were quite a few riders in that group of favourites once Primoz Roglic got into trouble who thought this is a really good opportunity because they don't know if it's a bad day or this is the beginning of the end for Primoz, but they wanted to try and make gains as much as possible. But he rode aggressive all day. He was following attacks, and yeah, I mean, it is going to be a thing now, stroking the fox.
Oh dear, sounds all kinds of wrong, Robbie. You've absolutely thrown me with that statement. Adam, you quite correctly corrected me during that interview, saying that this hasn't been the fastest stage over 150 kilometres. That was actually yesterday. However, it was such an aggressive day, wasn't it?
Aggressive start to finish. We saw gaps open up early on, the fight to get in the breakaway, up that first 1 kilometre climb. Gaps opened up then for the next 40, 50k, where riders were just trying to get back on. Tiberi tried with his whole team to get back on, eventually did through a lull, but then they got onto the bottom slopes of Monte Grappa. They got onto there, and then it was game on once again. So, as Jonathan said earlier, there was like a 20, 30-minute lull where nothing really happened, and that was it throughout the whole day. It was just game on, and even though the average speed wasn't high, that would have been a day that would have hurt a lot of people. And I also think with Ineos riding the way they do, it's just a fatigue game. Just keep pushing, keep pushing, just wear people out.
Well, someone who is suffering from that fatigue is Primoz Roglic. I'm just bringing up the top 10 in the general classification after that. He has dropped down to 10th in the GC. He's at 3 minutes and 53 seconds. Jonathan, that is quite considerable. Let's show you this then. Simon Yates still in second. Manu Ayuso 126. Richard Carp has the same as well. Derek G has moved up to 5th. Damiano Caruso, Tiberi, Egan Bernal and Tymon Arensman have all shifted up because Primoz Roglic is now down in 10th and he is just within the 4-minute mark with 1 week left of racing. Not quite ideal for the 5-time Grand Tour winner, is it?
No, I think it's obviously really hard for him to win or even be on the podium. For me today, when I look at who's going to be the podium, I see again it's more about like how guys are reacting to the attacks. So who's got sore legs, who doesn't, going into the 3rd week. To me, Derek G looked great. Bernal always has a good fatigue resistance in the high mountains. Obviously, I'm going to say Carapaz also looked great. Ayuso, Carapaz looked great. Ayuso, so-so. Del Toro looked like he was smoking a cigar.
Do you know what I always love about this, and we've done it again? Always forget about Simon Yates.
I was going to say, where was it? Simon Yates?
But Simon also...
Sorry, didn't see him.
He attacked. He attacked.
It's true.
Riders to go.
And he's got experience. He sometimes is good in the 3rd week of a Grand Tour, sometimes not. I mean, we all remember that Giro D'Italia. He won 3 or 4 stages.
I think he remembers it.
And then he blew up spectacularly. So we'll see. But I mean, of course, he could also be a podium contender as well.
I thought he was really impressive today for a number of reasons, but there were a few times where it looked like he might have been dropped, where it looked like his race could have been over, he could have been distanced. However, to finish with this group, to respond to all of those attacks, to have a dig himself. Also really encouraging for the team that Bart Lemon was back in and able to do a turn off the front as well. I think if you're Visma Lease bike, you're going into the 2nd rest day, 3rd rest day, and thinking, yeah, this is a really, really good position to be in.
They'll be feeling really upbeat, like looking at how Simon was today, and I think still to this point he hasn't been on his favoured terrain because although it was a tough stage with a lot of climbing, it wasn't at the gradients where we normally see him come into his own. So I think we've got a lot to look forward to for Simon Yates, and his team have been unreal. On a team that doesn't have a whole heap of climbing domestiques, and I think Bart Lemon just really, he went above and beyond today. He was in the break, then he was working hard. In fact, I'm going to give him Domestique of the Day, just for what he did, not influencing who won the race, but how he did his job
always in the
as
right
the only
place.
one there. He was great.
Absolutely.